Welcome to the Auxano podcast, where we get to hear about our guests' story and their causes of change. This is episode 2, so thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching. Today, we are with an artist, not just in the sense of a traditional painter that captures beauty on a canvas. We also see that reflected in his bakery, his coffee, and on his art with food. We are joined with the local 757 celebrity, owner of Angie's Bakery, Ken Garcia. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, one of the big things that I wanted to talk to you about is when you were a young boy, what did you want to do when you were a young boy? But now that you're a man and that you've mastered your craft and honed your craft, what observations could you make and what would you tell that young boy?
Hmm. I knew I was good at drawing. I didn't think that was really a career. It was just something that I did almost all the time. Um, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be like Tom Cruise in Top Gun. And I wanted to be a doctor too, you know. Um, it wasn't just because my family wanted someone in the medical field in the family.
Yeah.
I just thought it would be nice, to make them proud and be someone that's important because I thought it was really cool that a doctor does what he does, or they do. Um, I don't know. I mean, and it wasn't really a sure shot that I wanted to be something, But as I got older, I wanted to do something creative. Um, but I still wanted to be good at it and love it and not drive myself crazy into trying to love something. So I did go to school for, I majored in medical illustration, which was kind of like a mesh of here's the medical side and here's the drawing side, and here it is together.
Yeah.
Because I still had to major in biology and be an art major at the same time. So it was long nights of studying the book and long nights of drawing. Um, but yeah, and through that, the school I went to VCU. The school kind of geared the students to be ready for the workforce. So we all basically became graphic designers anyway. So that was the job that I got after school, was being a graphic designer.
Nice. Was it like a Filipino thing where like your parents are like, oh no, like anak, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a nurse? Is that what pushed you into medical coding and medical administration?
I mean, there was some of that, but they were fully supportive of me going to school for what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just needed to explain what it was, and for them to be like, okay, can you get a job doing that? And then I show them labels like this, like, well, this is what I could do. I could graphic design this.
Yeah.
And at that time, my dad was working at a labeling company, so he kind of understood,
Got it.
like, oh, there's the guys in the office doing the graphic designs and designing the labels for, I think it was Pepsi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of justified like what my line of work was.
Yeah.
So that worked out. And then after school, I think I just did real estate ads, for houses and stuff like that. So that was that. That was like what it was.
So I'm a firm believer that everybody offers a presence that makes them unique. And because like I'm Filipino, you're Filipino, and you decided to move away from the mold of like, I need to be a nurse. How did you decide that you were going to be like an artist?
I mean, as an artist and loving the craft and loving being tired of creating, um, quite on set. Sorry. um, well, like, let me let me rethink that question. Can you shoot that back at me?
Yeah,
So that,
so I believe that everybody has a presence that makes them unique, and because that you decided not to move into the mold of medicine, but you chose to move into like the field of like artistry, um, like what really was the inspiration for you to move from like a social construct of like, hey, Filipinos are nurses or like Filipinos are in medical to like, no, I'm gonna be an artist.
Yeah. So I think whatever job I had, I found a way to be creative. And it was just a part of me that I had to pay attention to. Um, so I was a graphic designer, but I try to offer more things than that. And I even explained to my managers at that time that I could do this too. I could do this too. Um, so it wasn't really like I'm rebelling against the fact that I'm an artist and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, it was just part of me that I had to pay attention to a little more. And after I married an artist also. She was the one that kind of pointed out that you have to do what you love, and this is what makes you different, that you are an artist. And so everything that I touched, I try to think a little ahead and maybe outside the box with how is this presented? How is this perceived? How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
Um, does it pass me? Is it good enough for me? And it's kind of it's kind of all over the place when I think about it now, because I do have a passion for traditional art, and I do wish that I could show people how that's part of their lives also,
Yeah.
how it's influenced what we see now, yet to be open to what's new now.
Yeah.
And someone asked me, "What do you think about AI and art?" You know, and I thought about that for a few days, and I was like, "Well, what did artists think about photography when that came about?" You know,
Yeah.
because they're capturing an image um, from painting, whether it's plein air or just direct, and now you have this machine that could capture the image and do the same thing,
Yeah.
but it still relies on the person taking the picture. And so does AI. You know, it kind of relies on you, but now that it has a database that's vast that you've given information to and the rest of the world, um, this is something that is going to be part of it now, you know? So I feel like I always try to say, well, what if Leonardo da Vinci had an iPad? Do you think he would not use it? You know? And and there's always artists would strive for shortcuts, you know? There's a traditionalist that would love to go through the intense methods of creating art, and there would be people that are more of a production artist that want to bang things out, you know? And that's what I think people forget, that artists back then produced to make work, you know? Um, yeah, I'm starting to ramble, but
No, no,
I don't
no.
know.
No, it's good.
So I think that's probably what sets me differently, is that I don't forget that I'm an artist. And when people make the pastries in the back, I like to think of it as um, my students putting out their gallery. You know,
Yeah.
I want the presentation to be nice. I want the tone when you walk into the bakery to be a certain tone that they'll only get here, you know. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to explore. There's still a lot that I'd like to get out of just creating pastries
Yeah.
and incorporating art at the same time, because it's inspiring both ways.
I remember that we were having the conversation that it was about purpose. And you were saying that you felt your purpose was in the community and that you were being able to provide art for the community in that way. Would you mind expanding on your point on why you feel like it is your purpose?
Well, Oh yeah, there's jets here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm remembering like past interviews when every small sound they're like, "What was that?"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the
Luckily
dumpster.
for us, it doesn't really matter. I mean, even this like interaction, it's all like in the normal, natural candor. You know, like I'm for it. I'm for it.
Yeah, yeah. So can you hit me back with that again?
Yeah. So, we had the conversation, and you were talking about like what you felt your purpose was, especially like in the Virginia Beach community.
Uh-huh.
Would you mind expanding on your point on why you feel like being where you're at and searching for purpose? You know.
Um, I think when I was a graphic designer, I I tried to give them all that I had already. And there was limitations there, but at the end, um, I still gave it my best, and
Yeah.
I was getting recognized for good work, and they were starting to include me in bigger projects, and I just feel like things like that kind of happen when you have this positive force and this energy of just being creative, that everyone would want a piece of something of that. And when we decided to purchase the bakery, when my uncle put it up, uh, it was something to think about because I had security. I mean, I had a government job as a
Yeah.
graphic designer, but it was also like, why is this available to me now? How did this happen? Uh, so I started to believe that maybe I'm supposed to do that, you know? Maybe there's something there for me that I'm not getting fulfillment in where I'm at currently.
Yeah.
And it took some time to figure out. A lot of it was just missing what I had before, so that was kind of tough mentally, that I don't have the comfort of Saturdays off, Saturdays and Sundays off. I don't have um I work more.
Yeah.
I'm up earlier, and at the same time I'm trying to keep my health, you know, in check. So I would try to stay as fit as possible because I'm trying to live as long as possible.
Yeah.
So, and I have kids, so yeah, that was probably the scary thing too, is that okay, so I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, which means I have to create things to support my family.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'm a creator, so let's be creative and think of something,
Yeah.
you know. And then it was just me just looking at everything around here, like what the basic is, what's your competition, and what do you have to worry about, um how can you outdo that, you know.
Yeah.
And there was a couple mornings where I'm getting kind of deep, but
It's okay.
there was a couple mornings where I would wake up at 3 and get ready to come here, but I would actually stop by other shops and see who's open, you know. And then I saw, well, no one's open yet, which means I'm ahead.
Right.
And now I could think of what I could do. And then I didn't want to get too competitive about it. So because I didn't want to lose myself as a creative. I didn't want to be, I'm gonna do this what you do better. I just like to think about it. Well, I'm already ahead, so I'm on my own path already, and I'll just do what feels right. And that's where I needed to find meaning in that, and that's when the community started coming into my life.
Yeah.
because they saw new faces here. They see me, they talk to me, they find out who I am. And I meet these people that share stories about coming here ever since they were kids. And that touched me a lot because that's when it became important to me that maybe this is why you're here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all about the tradition of the family. And if this bakery is a tradition for the family, then we got to keep it here. We got to keep it strong. And we got to make sure that generations and generations afterwards would remember that this bakery, like my parents used to go here or my grandparents used to go here, and now I come here, you know. Um, yeah, I think that was my main inspiration, that there's so many stories that people have shared that connected with the bakery, whether it's just bread or something new that they've tried or a new Filipino family member in the family. So I know all about this now, you know, and it made me feel good. You know, it made me feel accomplished that we're actually doing something great for people. And I guess I could go into when the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
because we bought the bakery in 2019, and then 2020 happened. And it's funny because I was scrolling through my old photos from 2019, looking for old shots of the bakery, and then I see how it shifted and changed so much, where it became like I could see where what I was thinking in these photos. I could see how afraid I was that we might have to close, but then it never became uh, a choice for us. We always just said we're gonna stay open. You know, that's just how me and my parents are. We're gonna stay open. We're gonna work. You know, um, and then I was just like, well, let's just be careful. Let's just make sure we don't have that many people in here. Make sure we take people's temperatures and stuff like that. You know, all the drills that we had to go through. And as soon as someone's sick, then they have to be honest, you know, or we have to call them out. Like, you're sick, you gotta go
Yeah.
home, you know. And um, we actually flourished those months that stores were closing, um, supplies were running out, flour was getting low, yeast was getting super low because people were baking at home, and bread was running out at stores, you know. And I guess it's because factories that were producing the breads weren't able to produce because they had to shut down for like a couple weeks, and then they lose some supply. But we kept it going, and I remember taking inventory and wondering, like, what if we run out of flour? I can't get our minimum. So we had a store here on this side of the bakery, cleared it out, and I got twice as much flour as we usually do, just because I said, well, I have to keep going, you know, and we could still produce bread, and pandesal will be in every home still. You know, that's not a if it's gonna be there, it's gonna be there because you're still gonna come get it. And during that time, that's when I saw things happening with the generations, where before I would see Lolo come in and he'd always get his 1 dozen, and we got used to seeing him and we knew exactly what he needed. And then I stopped seeing him because there was a lockdown for elderly to not go
Yeah.
out in
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, that's right.
So I saw their kids coming, and one of them was like, yeah, I'm taking this to my dad because he usually comes here, and now I'm bringing it to him. Or I'd see people our age packing up so much pandesal to drop it off at people's doorsteps, like their families,
Yeah.
because they're providing for them, you know, and being part of the family and understanding or it was probably like a conversation like, hey, can you pick up pandesal for auntie, auntie and uncle, and
Auntie Judith.
yeah. So so it was kind of like I understand, and I pictured myself in their shoes because they're about my age,
Yeah.
that I would probably be doing the same thing too, and I could picture that, and that kind of hit a string for me, like I understand. I understood the families of the community, not just the Filipinos because I'm Filipino, but just the fact that this bakery has become important to the community, and they just know that we'll still give them bread. So
There's definitely a time actually, and I never actually told you this, even when we first met, but I was actually able to meet my like father's side cousins, and how we met was we talked about Angie's Bakery, but I had met him like coincidentally, I think like at a Jollibee, or that, or I brought like Jollibee to like his grandparents' house, or like our grandparents' house. But the fact that Angie's Bakery came up is super awesome because that just it proves that you're a household name. Like Angie's Bakery is a household name, and me personally, I can only affirm and give you affirmation that like yeah, like you, when we talk about Filipinos being part of a family element, that's all you. Like you were providing outreach and you were giving Filipinos their pandesal. When times were tough, when people were dying, when people were getting sick, there was Angie's Bakery. So I I can only agree and affirm on that point. It's really powerful. Um, but with that being said, speaking of Angie's Bakery, where can people find you?
well, we have Instagram has been the most lively place for us. It's Angie's Bakery VB on Instagram. We do have a website, angiesbakeryvb.com, and yeah, here.
Nice, nice. Well, I actually wanted to ask a personal question.
Okay.
Is what was the origins of the ube latte for you? Because I like you guys are a bakery, but
Yeah,
you also make a mean coffee. Your coffee is amazing.
I love coffee. So, I thought about it when I was developing the ube pandesal. Um, so the recipe for that is based off of the original pandesal here, and I needed it to be its sister bread.
Like a
It
pear.
yeah, it needed to work together. It can't be two different breads. And when I was playing with the recipes or just seeing what would work, I had this mix that I was like, man, this would be really good if it was a drink, you know. And because I would taste it, like, man, it's really good. It's sweet. It's concentrated enough to be a drink. That you could add milk to it and ice, and then it would be a good drink. And then, um, I guess months later flew by, and I always like before the pandemic, I wanted to set up a cafe here. Like the layout would have been different. There would have been more seating. Um, yeah, I wanted something like that, but things change and things evolve. But I still wanted coffee, and I had a rep come in from one company that I wasn't really vibing with,
Hmm.
and then I think the next day, um, a roaster was actually visiting a restaurant next door, and he came by just to get pansal, and my cashier saw that he had um, a logo. It's called plugging him in Bridgeport Coffee,
Okay. Richport coffee. All
and
right.
so my cashier was like, "Hey, I think Ken is looking for someone to provide coffee here." And then I talked to him, and we just like connected so well. It's like meeting a friend that you never had. Like it was like that. Like we just got along so well, and then he was like, I got a guy that sells espresso machines. He's a good guy. And then we had like our little meeting over here. And then And then I was like, all right, I want a nice espresso machine and I need it to be sexy. And then he was like, you got to see this one. And then they explained it to me that it's a lever machine. No one in Hampton Roads has it right now. So, you check it out. I think you'll really like it. Nice and shiny, And fast forward, uh, me and Miguel is his name, the owner of Richport.
Nice.
Uh, he kept, we kept working on a blend for Angie's Bakery because I wanted something to be bold enough to make the working Filipino like feel good about their coffee, Because I kind of base it on like, what if like a working Filipino needs coffee? What does he want? He wants something strong,
Yeah.
and they talk about strong coffee in the Philippines. And so I wanted it to be a little darker but smooth because they want it to not be harsh. So so we came up with a blend and I named it Bahay Blend, the house blend.
Catchy.
So yeah, that's what we use for the ube latte. And then me, Miguel, and Robert, the guy that sold me the espresso machine, we were calibrating the machine and taking shots of espresso. and and then Miguel was like, "You should make an ube latte." And I was like, "You know what?
So that was like the birth of Ube Latte?
Yeah." I was like, I was thinking of something like that too. Like I needed to make something ube, but that it was one of those silent like ideas that you didn't want to put out in the world yet because it's still like a baby. And then I looked at him. I was like, I'll have it next week. I'm gonna mess with that idea, and I'll for sure have it. And so I just kept giving my employees ube latte samples.
Is this good?
And then I'm like, is this good? Yeah, exactly. I was like, and they're like, yeah, this is good. I was like, just no, really. Um, so yeah, I came up with a pretty simple recipe. And when you think about ube, like if you bake with it, it rides on milk and sugar. That's the main thing. It has to work right. It has to not be so sweet. It has to be subtle, and it has to kind of connect with you as a person who loves ube, especially growing up Filipino and having that ube on a spoon from your lola that gave it to you. Yeah, because that's my memory of ube. The first time I had it was on a spoon. She was cooking it on an electric wok because we were in Germany. And then she just scoops one out for me and gives me it. And then I'm like, what's this? And I thought it was like cookie dough.
Yeah.
But
Filipinos cookie dough, pretty much.
yeah. So, yeah. So it needs to do that. And I guess an underlining goal for the ube latte was a conversation that for the community also, to connect people with who we are and what we make.
Yeah.
And what is ube, and what better is over a cup of coffee. So I'd like to say that the idea for the ube latte was to educate Filipinos on what ube was, what ube is with us, with the medium of coffee.
Yeah.
And that's, I see it happen here, that someone Filipino will bring their coworker that never had ube, sit here and have a latte and explain what ube is.
Yeah.
And it's working, and I think that's pretty awesome. And it's nice to expand people's like palette on what we have, what we do, because that will make them interested in like, well, what's ube in the pastries,
Yeah.
and then they'll try it, and
I think it's super funny too because Filipinos are just so like if Tita or Tito were to be like, hey, Did you eat yet? The answer is gonna be yes or no, but that's like our universal greeting is like,
Yeah,
have you eaten yet?
yeah,
And so the fact that food is our love language, I think it affirms like, yeah, this is ube. It's like, well, tell me about it. I ain't gonna tell you. You're gonna try it.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, what better way than to, since Americans love coffee. I mean, everybody loves coffee now, but what a way! Because when I first tried it, I was blown away. I was like, this is really good. So
Thank you.
yeah, kudos, kudos. When your friend was introducing the ube to you, was there kind of like that artist like, I can't release it until it's perfect?
Yeah, yeah. It took a while. Just like everything that we create here. Um, uh, my mom is the genius behind all the pastries here. Um, she's the one that would experiment a lot on ideas that she has, and then she would understand certain textures of dough and cake to know what would work with what. And that's where I learned how to bake
Yeah.
through my mom. And it started with hopia, but man, what was the question again? So
Oh, just like, was it there like an artist block? Because you know, like how like you as a creative will be like, I can't release this. This is trash.
mhm.
Like, did you have that experience before you like tried to like bring the ube latte like out into the public for Virginia Beach?
Yeah, yeah, it had to be right. It had to make ube lovers happy.
Mhm.
It it had to be purple. Like that was a challenge in itself. Like uh just making coffee with ube would just turn like brown. But there's a combination that I use that still preserves the purpleness
Purples,
of ube. And yeah, and us as Filipinos have to enjoy it too. Like just like you did the first time you had it.
amazing. It was amazing. Um, I know that you were talking about like being in Germany. Um, did you live there your entire life?
Yeah, well, I was born there. I was born in Nuremberg. My dad was in the army. Um, and I lived there until it was time to start middle school. So most of my childhood was in Germany.
Did you have the Kobe Bryant reaction where you're like, I'm never leaving, or like, I can't believe I'm leaving?
I was excited because most of the kids in Germany talked about going to the States. That's what we called it. And we were always curious and interested in people that moved to Germany from the States.
Mm.
I remember talking to my trainer about the styles and fashion that came to Germany into the schools. Uh, we were talking about sagging pants because when that came to Germany, it was one kid, and I was like, why does that look kind of cool to me? And then he was wearing cross colors. I don't know if you remember cross colors, but that was around the time of Carl Kanai, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
Do you have a picture? We definitely gotta plug that in.
yeah. And it was tough because we had one store. We had the exchange that was in the base
Yeah.
that would like ship in these like fashion trends, and that's how I got Jordans and stuff like that. And it would always be a line for something that someone heard was going to be there. And when Jordans came in, there'd be a line for Jordans. When I was younger, it was Ninja Turtle toys. When there was a big shipment of Ninja Turtle toys, there was actually a warehouse that they put together and just bins of Ninja Turtle toys that you just pick at, you know. It was such a big thing. But it was really nice living on base and having like the people like understand like their community, you know. So that was special to me.
Would you ever move back?
I don't know anyone there,
Oh,
but I would like to see like the old places. Um, I actually reunited with a friend of mine that I grew up with there. He came here on his way to Bahrain. He stopped in for a while, and I haven't seen him since I was 11.
That's
And
a long time.
yeah, and it was super cool, and he's so much the same person that I remember. And we talked about how much we envied each other with things.
Hmm.
It was interesting, and it was fun, and we still like the same things. We talked about collecting sports cards and stuff like that. Yeah, so
Was it kind of a struggle to see him, like, because like as you guys grow older, like you guys would like kick it back when you guys were 11? Was it like kind of like a wake up of like, oh dang, like we're getting older and like the train isn't stopping? Like how was your reaction to like seeing him again? Because like the last time you guys saw each other, you guys were kids.
yeah, I mean, we're connected through social media, but we don't talk that much. I
Mm.
do shoot him a text on his birthday every year because I somehow remember it every year. Um, but seeing him, I mean, I was a little nervous because I didn't want to tarnish like my memory of like the great times that we had. And if he grew up to be someone else, then that would be weird. But I was relieved that we were both still the same kind of person, and we just kind of shared like our lives. I mean, we didn't even get to hang out that long. It was just a drive from his hotel to here so that he could see my parents, and us going back to his hotel, right? And I mean, I don't know. In some ways, it was like it happened the right time,
Yeah.
and then we were parked at his hotel parking lot, and I was like, you know what? Last time we saw each other, we were the age of our sons now, and our sons are both 11.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy to think that that was our minds at that age, that we had a best friend, and so that made me give me some perspective on my kids and his friends at this time, that it probably would be a meaningful relationship, especially if I kept this one.
Yeah.
So,
Well, talking about meaning, also, I wanted to ask you, what were some of the sacrifices that you had to have in order to make your art a success?
besides sleep, um, you there's a lot of discipline, of course. You had to pretty much frame out when you're gonna paint. Uh, this is the struggle I'm going through right now, because I have a series in mind that I'm trying to paint, and all these ideas that are coming together slowly. But um, for me to save my sanity, I have to schedule it. I have to have a goal each time that I'm able to sit down and paint. Um, any forward movement in the process of making art is good. Even if it's just something conscious, like a thought and an idea that you just put down, it's some sort of progress. It's just getting down to the grind and actually doing it is actually like the fun part, especially when you already know what you're doing. But yeah, I think it's just the matter of time management and sticking to it. You know, like I had a painting that I started. It's actually that one hanging up over there.
Nice. We'll get some B-roll of it. Yeah, I'll take a picture and plug it in
Okay.
to an edit. Yeah.
Yes. So with that painting, it was actually a Instagram reel that I was trying to shoot, and I wanted to add music to it, make it look cool. I was here on a Monday, and I had workers fixing the roof in my kitchen by the front door. there's like water damage there. And so I was like, well, this is a good time to prep. I could get ahead and be ahead for the next day. So I was like, maybe I could add some of that, into a video. And while I was shooting that, one of the workers hits the fire alarm in the kitchen. So all my hood, all of the chemicals to put out the fire just like went all over the place. And and I was like, what is going on? So so that's kind of my memory of that painting, of making it. And I could hear them like cursing at each other, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that's kind of the backstory of that painting
Very
that
great.
I only tell a few people, but now everyone will probably hear it. um but I was in essence trying to capture the moment of creating. And I feel like paintings now, to me, matter more when it's kind of documenting part of their lives.
Yeah.
Um, because I can look at that painting and remember what happened that day. And it's got a story, And
It's a labor of love for sure. Yeah, I can't even imagine. That's a lot of like ingredients and equipment that are just chemicalized, though. I know chemicalized isn't a right word, but like that's a lot of stuff.
and yeah, so I started, so I thought maybe I could grab like a good composition out of the video. And I did. I thought there was like a good hand in there, a good perspective on my face, and then I could play with painting an interior, which I never really did before because I was mainly portraits and figures. Uh, so I studied a lot of John Singer Sargent for the interior, and my style has loosened up a lot more because I used to study a lot of Caravaggio and Bouguereau, but now I feel like the more impressionistic kind of style fits me because my life is like on the go all the time, and I want to kind of express that energy and and kind of show you that that's just a moment, of that time.
Yeah.
And so I started painting that, and then I took a break from it because I got too caught up studying. And that's kind of a wormhole for me, that I get too caught up studying and then I start worrying if I can or cannot do things. So
Imposter syndrome.
there you go. So I flip the painting over and face the wall, and I don't see it until um, three of my friends send me a link to the Mocha's exhibition for Made in VA,
Yeah.
and that also included one of the curators there. And I told all of them, I was like, I never get into that show. I've tried before when it was named something else, and then they were like, just try, And I told my wife, and she was like, well, if you're only working on that, you might as well finish it now. And so I did, and then surprisingly it got in, it got accepted
To an art exhibit. Wow.
yeah. And the curator for that, or judge, is a curator from Chicago, and she chose that. And then during the show it won honorable mention, so I was like, okay, that's pretty
It's
cool,
very impressive.
So it was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes full circle back to how, like, because you're an artist, it reflects on your coffee, it reflects on your pastries. It's just because, like, you've lived a life of art, it just affirms that you're an artist and that your artistry pays off. um, if money wasn't a concern, would you have been a painter, like just a straight painter?
Oh yeah, that's actually, yeah.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I have a friend that's living that life. We were kind of like art buddies. I was teaching workshops, and he actually took some of my classes here. And he grew up here, um, and he has like very supportive parents to be a painter or an artist, the
Yeah,
best that you can be. And he had a lot of talent. Um, and now he's the one like that I'm vicariously living through. I'm like, look at what you're doing. That's pretty awesome.
yeah,
And I always send him a DM like yo, this looks really good, you know. And what's nice is that he always stops in and like says hi when he's in town. He lives in I think Pennsylvania now,
oh,
but
it's a stone skip away.
yeah, but he's busy all the time. He's represented by one of the biggest galleries in the U.S. Um, but I know he works like a lot. He's a very hard worker. He paints all day, all night, you know. And looking at that, I know it doesn't fit my life now, but I'm very, very happy for him. Very happy that he's there, you
Yeah.
know. And what's funny is that I don't know if he knows that he's there because he's still a student, you know, he's still a student for his craft.
Yeah,
And that's probably what makes him awesome. His name's Alex Venezia.
nice. We should plug him in too.
Yeah.
Does he have an Instagram?
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think it's Alex Venezia.
I'll make sure to look it up. But unfortunately, I feel like we've hit the time for closing thoughts. One thing I wanted to ask you, especially for any of the audience that might be watching, is what is advice you'd give to young entrepreneurs?
Um Try not to be overwhelmed with everything all at once. Uh get a good accountant.
Get a good account.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know. I feel like I'm giving advice as an artist also to test things out
Yeah.
and and be open to input, you know, be open to what people think.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're providing, whatever service you are doing, every opinion kind of matters.
Yeah.
Um, but love your craft. I mean, that's probably the most important thing. And just go through the motions too, you know. Like you're gonna have hard times, you're gonna have easy times. I've had my breakdowns, and then I've had my times where I look at everything coming together so well, you know. And I think that's just the process. Yeah, and don't just stick to your gun, you know. Don't compare yourself to others. Just know what's right and be confident in your decisions. I mean, this is kind of like life advice, so
Yeah. I mean, it doubles as that, honestly. But did you have any closing thoughts? Any comments?
um I mean, for the most part, thank you guys, you know, for
Thank you. Thank you for
including
your
me
time.
and taking your time here. You know, it's always nice to chop it up and reflect and answer the questions that matter to people. You know,
Yeah.
All I know is inspiration is everywhere. You just have to kind of pay attention to it.
Yeah.
You have to understand why you're doing what you do, but keep it open as this is what's given to you, you know.
Yeah.
I guess I should add that I didn't realize that I would become a baker. But being an artist, it just became another medium for me to play with.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're a creative and you're an artist, you know, you could fit anywhere in this world, even if it's something totally not artistic, you know. We conform pretty well with things. You just have to understand why you are doing that and what could make it better for you. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just hope to inspire, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why I started the podcast myself is if one person finds inspiration from you or from me, I'm successful in the fact that I was able to convey that inspiration, even if it was just to one. Hopefully, it would be to more, but the one is enough. The one, if inspiring one was the goal, I hope I've succeeded in it already.
Yeah.
So, but Kuya, thank you so much for coming onto Auxano. This is our second episode, so it means a lot that you said yes to us. But with that being said, to the audience, be well and walk tall. Thank you guys so much.